here Java programs are best example for standalone application. Applets cannot run any program from the local computer, and to run applet I require browser. Applet want to switch to running state that can be done by using start method, and applet becomes idle when it is stopped from running. Hello to all, a warm welcome to my new session on Unit 4, and the chapter name here is Applet Programming. I am Revati from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, 1st grade college, Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. So dear student, at the beginning, I'm going to deal with what is Java applet. Along with that, I'm going to deal with applet LIFECYCLE. Along with that, I'm going to deal with applet tag. So these are the topic I'm going to deal in my today's session. So dear student, please make a note here that from the examination view, it is very important. You can able to expect 2-mark question as well as 7 or 8-mark question. So what are the questions you can able to expect here? That is, what is applet? Then how applet programs are differ from standalone application, along with that applet life cycle. So these are the 3 topic very important under this chapter. Now at the beginning, I'm going to have applet. So what is this applet? These applets are small program. Now let me to consider one simple example here. Think that I want to use calculator. Where I'm going to get the calculator? In my laptop. So I'm going to search the calculator and I'm going to get small calculator, and this calculator is the best example for applet program. So these calculators are designed by using applet programs. So what is applet here? Applet is a special type of program. So here it's also a special type of program that is embedded in the web page. That means I'm going to place this applet program in my web page to generate dynamic content. So when I talk about website as well as web page, there are certain times I want to display dynamic content. In that situation, I'm going to make use of applet. So what is applet here? Applets are nothing but this special small program, and I'm going to embed those programs in my web page to generate the dynamic content. So what is this dynamic content? The content which is present in the web page. Web pages are going to change frequently. So those contents are termed as dynamic content, and it runs in the browser and works at a client side. So where I'm going to run the applet program? I'm going to run the applet program with the help of browser. Any browser, for example, Mozilla, Firefox or Internet Explorer. Okay, these are the example for browser, and where I'm going to run, it is at the client side. So dear student, if I consider any browser, there are client side as well as the server side scripting. Okay, now if I consider applet, where I'm going to run the applet at the client side. So who is this client? Client is none other than user. So, and applets are not fully featured application program. So here I know that an applets are a special type of program. So it is not fully featured application programs. They are commonly written. That means I'm going to use applet program to perform small tasks or components of task. For example, I can able to consider calculator. So this is all about what is an applet. So this is only for 2 marks. Now I'm going to have the topic that is how applets differ from application. So what is this application? Now applets do not use main function. So dear student, as we know that applet programs are different from application program. Now to run applet program, I required browser as well as I'm going to run this applet program at the client side. And if I consider standalone application, then I can able to consider Java programs. So here Java programs are best example for standalone application. Now I want to write the difference between Java actual program as well as applet program. And if I consider Java program, I'm going to have the main function and the execution of the program is going to start from the main function. But if I consider applet, I don't have any main functions. This is the first difference between application program as well as applet. Now I'm going to have the next difference, that is applets when loaded automatically call certain methods of applet class and start and execute the applet code. That means when the applets programs are loaded automatically to perform its operation, it requires some of the methods. So it is going to include the methods of applet class to start its execution. Now the next application, unlike standalone application, applet cannot run independently. So here if I consider Java program, Java programs are able to run independently. But to run applet program, we must require supporting program. That means I'm going to have the applet program. Along with that, I'm going to have the HTML code. Now to run applet program, I want to make use of HTML. So here to run applet program, I required browser. So applet cannot run independently. The next difference here is they run inside the web page. So where applets are going to run inside the web page using special feature known as hypertext markup language tag. So here I'm going to use website or web page. For that reason, I want to make use of HTML tag. Now, applet cannot read from or write to the files. So here applets are run at the client side. In the sense, it is make use of local computer, and applets are not able to read any file or write to any file. And applet cannot communicate with other server. Suppose if I want to communicate with other server by using applet, not possible. Now, applets cannot run any program from the local computer. So, applets cannot run any program from the local computer, and to run applet I required browser. So applets are restricted from using libraries. So here applet cannot make use of any library functions such as C or C++. So these are the difference between application program as well as standalone program. So dear student, please make a note here that this is also very important topic from the examination point of view. The next topic here is applet life cycle. When I talk about an applet must have their own life cycle. So this is the diagram for applet life cycle, and this is very important topic from the examination point of view. You can able to expect 7 or 8 marks from this topic. So this is the short question. So dear student, when I consider applet life cycle, at the beginning I'm going to have born. So at the beginning I'm going to have born state, and this is nothing but the load applet. That means I'm going to load the applet. After that, when it starts its execution, that is running state, that is by calling start method. Okay, when I call start method, an applet moves from born state to running state. Okay, fine. From the running state, if I want to stop the execution of an applet, in that situation, I can able to call the method stop. So now an applet entered into an idle state. From idle state, if I want to switch back to execution state, so applet want to switch to running state, that can be done by using start method. And there are certain situations, if I want to destroy or if I want to end the execution of an applet, then I can able to call destroy function or destroy method. And this is the life cycle of an applet. So dear student, this is very important. Now let's see all the state of an applet one by one. So at the beginning, I'm going to have init method. So what is the need of init method and where I'm going to call this init method? So it is nothing but the initialization of an applet. So here applet enters the initialization state when it is first loaded. So when I load my applet program, then it enters into the initialization state by calling init function, and this is done by using init method of applet class. That means here this init function or method which is present in the applet class. Now the applet is treated as born. Now the applet is born. At this stage, applet requires following things, that is applet want to create objects. So create objects needed by the applet. That means the job of the init method or init function is to create object which is needed by the applet. Now set up the initial value. That means initialize the value. Whatever the values required by the applet, that must be initialized at this stage. Load the image or fonts, set up the color, set up the font size, etc. All those things are done by under init method. Now this is the example as well as syntax for an applet. So the initialization occurs only once. That means I'm going to initialize the object, I'm going to create the object, I'm going to set the color, font size, okay, font style, everything, and it's going to happen only once in the life cycle of an applet. That means I can able to call init method only once in my applet program. So here I'm going to have the syntax. So init, this is my method name and it does not return any value and it is public to all. And inside that I'm going to write the statement. That means what are the operation it want to perform. All the statements are written inside the curly brace. Now I'm going to have the next state, that is running state. Once the applet is loaded to the memory, now applet enters into running state when we call start method. That means when I make a call of start method in my program, then applet enters into the running state. When I make use of init method, applets are in born state and I want to make that to running state. How I'm going to make it? By using start method, and this occurs automatically after the applet is initialized. That means this start method is going to invoke automatically when the applet is initialized, and starting can also occur only once. That means the starting can also occur if the applet is already stopped. So here I can able to call this start method more than once. That means at the beginning, suppose if I want to make applets enters into the running state, that time I'm going to call start method. And suppose if I want to run the applet which is already stopped, then also I'm going to use start method. So distinct init method, the start method may be called more than once. So if I consider init method, I can able to call init method only once in my applet program. But here I can able to call start method more than once. So how many times I want to run the applet, that much time I can able to call this start method. Now dear student, this is all about running state. Now moving on to the next state, that is stopped state or idle state. So what is this stopped state? When I want to stop the execution of an applet, in that time I'm going to make use of idle state or stop state. So an applet becomes idle when it is stopped from running. For example, think that, okay, I'm going to have the calculator. When it is stopped, then it enters into the idle state. So what's the meaning of idle? That is nothing but I'm going to stop from the running state. So here stopping occurs automatically. So here stopping occurs automatically when we leave the page containing currently running applet. So here applet stopping is going to occur automatically. And how it is going to occur automatically? When we leave the page that contains applet. That means that page runs applet. So when I leave that page, okay, then I'm going to enter into the idle state or stopped state. So when I leave the page containing the current running applet, think that some applets are running, okay, so what I'm going to leave that page. In that situation, I'm going to enter into the third state. Now stop method is used to stop the applet explicitly. Suppose if I want to stop the applets explicitly, in that situation I'm going to call stop method. Now this is the syntax for stop method. So I'm going to have the method name stop and it does not returns any value. For that reason the return type is void and it is publicly available to all the program as well as user. So it is public. and whatever the action I want to perform, that should be written inside the curly brace. So this is the syntax of stop method. Now I'm going to have the dead state. So an applet is said to be dead when it is removed from the memory. For example, I'm going to write some applet program. After that, I'm going to run that applet program. After running, what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove that applet from the memory. In that situation, it is termed as dead state. This occurs automatically by invoking the destroy method. That means I can able to make my applet dead state by invoking destroy method. So this occurs automatically by calling destroy method. So when I call destroy method, it's going to remove an applet from the memory. So like initialization, destroying state occurs only once. So dear student, please remember here that I can able to use init method as well as destroy method only once. But what about stop and start? I can able to use n number of times. Now I'm going to have the syntax for destroy method. So what is my method name? That is destroy, and what is void? It does not return anything. For that reason, it is void and public. Now, which are the applet I want to stop? What are the code? I'm going to write all those things within the curly brace. Moving further, I'm going to have the display state. So what is this display state? Applets moves to the display state whenever it has to perform some output operation. So what is this output operation? For example, I want to display some information. In that time, I'm going to call paint method or paint function. That indicates that I'm going to enter into the display state and I'm going to display the output to the user or on the screen. Now, the paint method is called to finish the task. Suppose if I want to display any content or any information to the user on the screen, then I'm going to make use of paint method. So every applet will have a paint method. So every applet is going to have the paint method, and this is the syntax for paint method. And what is the method name? It is paint, and I'm going to have the graphics class and I'm going to create the object G. Okay, and the return type here is void and it is public. And what are the things I want to display? That should be written in my curly brace. So this is nothing but the display statement. This is all about applet life cycle. Now moving further, I'm going to have applet tag. So as we know that applets are run only through the web browser. Okay, now I'm going to place this applet in my web page. For that, I want to make use of HTML tag. In that, I'm going to have the applet tag. So an applet tag supplies the name of the applet to be loaded. So here applet tab supplies which applet program I want to load and tells the browser what is the space required by the applet. So here this is my applet tag. So I'm going to start with the tag name applet and I'm going to specify the applet name. Now I'm going to specify the height and width of the applet, that is width as well as height. After that, I'm going to close the applet tag. This is the way I can able to make use of applet tag. Now I'm going to have this simple applet program. So this is applet program. For that reason, I'm going to include applet package. Okay, so Java main package. This is the sub package. Along with that, I'm going to specify the class name. Fine. And once again, I'm going to make use of abstract Windows toolkit. In that, I'm going to have the class called graphics, and where I'm going to make use of graphics in my paint method. So I'm going to write my program. Okay, so I'm going to make use of the features which is present in applet class to my own class. So this is the applet class and this is present under applet sub package. Now I'm going to extend the features of applet class in my program. And what is the class name here? That is first. This is my class. And here I'm going to call the paint method because I want to display the message saying welcome, and I'm going to specify the width. That means where I want to display the message. So I'm going to specify the space. Now see, I'm going to have the object G and which is of type graphics, and with the help of G, I'm going to call the drawString method which is present in my graphics class. I repeat, with the help of G object, I'm going to call the drawString method which is present inside the graphic class. Now I'm going to write the HTML part. That means I'm going to embed my applet program in my web page. That means to run applets, I require web page, and where I'm going to place the applet in my web page. When it is web page, then I want to make use of HTML tags. So I'm going to start from HTML and body. So these are the HTML basic tags, and I'm going to place the applet tag in my body section. Now I'm going to have the code. So what is this code? Here I want to write the class name. And what is my class name? That is first. And I'm going to specify the width and height of the applet. And I'm going to close the applet tag, as well as I'm going to close the body tag, as well as I'm going to close the HTML tag. This is the way I can able to create an applet. Now, dear student, in my today's session, I started with what is an applet. Along with that, I have discussed the difference between application program as well as applet. Along with that, I discussed what are the stages of applet. That is nothing but the life cycle of an applet. Along with that, I have discussed example programs, and all these topics are very, very important from the examination point of view. So dear student, in my next session, I'm going to deal with graphics program. So dear student, let's meet in the next session with more information about graphics program. Until then, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.